part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
The 1-1 pitch. A swing and a drive to deep right. Away back. Goal!
And with that Hemi call, it is time for another episode of Guardians of the Land MLB podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I am Michael Voorhees, and with me, as always, the better of the two Bryan Shaws, Bryan Shaw.
Hey, Mike. Hey, everybody. It's been an interesting 2 weeks. It's I think so. The last time we met, the Guardians were 12-13, so they were one game under 500. They were starting to come out of a funk where they had lost 7 in a row, and then they won 5 of their last 6. We were talking about Reyes maybe coming out of a little bit of a skid, and even with their little bit of a shortcoming that they had back on May 6th, so far when it came to record-wise, they were in pretty high-end categories when it came to offensive statistics still. Yep. And we had talked about on our past couple podcasts that would probably regress a little bit. Unfortunately, it looks like it's regressed really hard over the course of the last 2 weeks.
I think that might be an understatement, Bryan.
They're 4-6 in their last 10. I think the real kicker is losing 2 to Cincinnati. We'd probably be in a much different mood if they were able to pull that game off on Tuesday against Cincinnati. Unfortunately, Jose struck out when they were rallying. And then yesterday, also trying to rally, Jose still squeezes out a hit, but before he does, he fouls one off of his shin, had to get x-rays. And as far as I know right now, he's day-to-day.
He is in the lineup for tonight. The Indians have just released their lineup for this evening.
Ding.
Jose. Oh, I said Indians. Guardians. My bad. I knew it would happen. The Guardians have released their lineup. Jose is batting third and playing third base.
All right. Well, then he should be fine.
If he's day to day, he's going to fight. He's going to fight through it. A bit of a different lineup tonight. Oscar Mercado batting sixth. He's in right. Yu Chang gets the start at second base, hitting seventh. Ernie Clement in left, batting eighth. And Ahmed Rosario at short, batting second.
Okay.
So
Kwan's out of the lineup tonight.
Kwan is not in the lineup tonight.
And neither is Naylor has not been activated.
Nope. Naylor was what I read. Mandy Bell had said she was under the impression he would be activated before tonight's game.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he is not.
Because Tito had said that the other day when he got activated, he had said Naylor would be probably activated for today. So,
well, that
is a bit of a different lineup. Clementon left, and
well, maybe they got to try something. I mean, this offense is struggling mightily. I mean, I honestly thought they were going to pull it off 2 nights ago against the Reds. They, the comeback kids of the Cuyahoga. They really look like they could come back and win that game. And if it weren't for, I believe it was Trevor Stephan with his costly error, throwing the ball basically down the first baseline and into right field, that really hurt them. But the team looked like they were going to be competitive. And then you have the rain out on Thursday. They play. Or the rain out on Wednesday, they play on Thursday, and it just looked like they didn't even show up. 3 hits against the worst team in baseball. That's not going to get it done, unfortunately. And then you have, Jose. That looks so worse than I'm glad what it was now, obviously, with him being in the lineup tonight. But I'm interested to see how DeMarlo Hale does as the manager this evening, as Tito Francona is out tonight. He had a minor medical procedure done today at the Cleveland Clinic, so he is not managing this evening, but we don't know what that medical procedure was.
Yeah, I think DeMarlo will be fine. If it was longer than just tonight, I'm sure they would have said so. So I'm sure Tito will be back in the next day or so.
Yeah, he's supposed to return as of Saturday.
He had a slew of surgeries over the off season, so I'm sure it's cleanup stuff, something like that. Yeah, let's talk about this team hitting a little bit. So at the beginning, I had mentioned Reyes and how we thought he was coming out of his slide.
Yeah.
For May, Fran Mills hitting 318. So he has come out of his funk. Unfortunately, many of our other batters, I think when we last talked 2 weeks ago, I had said that they had 6 or 7 guys batting above 270. Unfortunately, that's not quite the case anymore. And these are just some numbers for May. Miles Straw's batting 157. Stephen Kwan's batting 185. Jose is batting 189. Owen Miller's batting 192. So those 4 guys are struggling, and they were a big part of your offense.
And that's usually
April.
that's usually our top 4 hitters normally.
Mm-hmm. So then on the other side of things, though, I mentioned Reyes, who's batting 318 for May. Andreas Jimenez is batting 283. Ahmed Rosario's 271. And Josh Naylor, a whopping 407.
Oh, Naylor's playing out of his mind.
So to lose him to COVID for a few days, I think has really hurt the team offensively. They have gone from their batting average is now 10th in the league when they were in the top 2 at one point. For comparison's sake, the team batting average was 251 in April, which would have ranked them 4th, and 235 in the month of May, which ranks them 20th. So a complete reversal here. And in the notes that you had sent me, you had kind of theorized, is the inconsistencies with the gameplay and the weather and the canceled games and the double headers and things, could that be playing a role? And I hadn't thought about it until you had mentioned that.
I think that plays a lot, because continuity is huge in the game of baseball.
Yeah.
And
routine.
Right. And when you can't play a game because of the weather, you go down and you hit in the cage or you throw the ball. I mean, there's things you can do, but it's not the same. It's not a game-like atmosphere. And I really think that hurts. I also think the COVID losing our entire coaching staff, with the exception of pitching coach Carl Willis, who was our acting manager for a few games, Naylor being the only player to get it, and he's still on the COVID list. So, I mean, you're going to have this. We also talked about it in probably one of our earlier pods, Bryan, that this is a very young team.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be lots of growing pains. Yeah, Stephen Kwan came out of the gate and blew us all away. Guess what? He's human, and he's slowly coming back down that ladder, which we knew that he would. There was no way he was going to keep that up.
But you can't have your first 4 hitters, Straw, Kwan, Jose, and Owen Miller, batting under 200 for the month of May and expect to be successful.
Well, yeah, Owen Miller was in the top 10 at one point for batting average.
Mm-hmm.
And now he has dropped, I think, down to like 25th or 26th or something. I mean,
and he had a clutch home run the other night. Unfortunately, it ended up being for nothing. Yeah, they're still struggling. The pitching is still struggling a bit. They're 24th in ERA still, 25th in starter ERA. So they're in a bit of a funk right now. The good news is they have an opportunity to rebound. They're 4.5 games out of first place. They're 3 games under 500. They have hit a bit of a skid here, losing 3 in a row. And then they've only won 4 of the last 10. So they're 4-6 in the last 10 games. But they have Detroit for 3 for the weekend homestand.
Hey, our second Cleveland team. Welcome. I like Detroit. We usually own them, so that's good.
And then a tough series will be at Houston for 3, but then they're at Detroit for 4, Kansas City home for 3, and then Baltimore as we start to get into the early part of June.
Aside from Houston, which that's a tough series. I mean, Houston is a very good team. We have a chance to kind of turn it around with, facing Baltimore, Detroit twice, but we could kind of get out of this swing. I mean, one of the things you didn't mention, Bryan, is we're only 2.5 games back of the wild card. I know it's like really early in the season, but I'm trying to find a positive. So we're going to stick with that. Obviously, they kind of changed the way the playoffs will look. As of now, we're kind of on the outside looking in, but only 2.5 back. That's not big.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered the wild card yet. I was just kind of looking at the division and them being in third place. And
I usually don't. Somebody I would love to give them credit, but I forget who it was. They had posted it on Twitter after our loss yesterday and said, hey, if you're looking for a bright side, we're only 2.5 out of the wild card, and then LOL, it's only May. Yeah. So we got a whole season left. I mean, I know teams they're already talking about what teams are going to be buyers and sellers at the trade deadline. It's May 20th. The season isn't that old. I mean, we've played how many games? We've played 35 games so far, and baseball is 162 games.
Yeah, we have 130 left.
Right. Why are we talking about the trade deadline? Why are we talking? It's early. Let's get through May. Let's get through June. Let's see what the beginning of July looks like, and then that'll kind of tell you where you're at.
I don't think there'll be sellers either way.
I think they're going to do what they always do. If there's a team that's willing to make a deal and they can get better, they're going to make the deal. If a team wants a guy like Ahmed Rosario, who's a free agent at the end of the season,
right,
I'm okay with that deal. And I know I put that in my notes that I sent you, Bryan. I honestly would love to see Andres Gimenez every day at shortstop. I really do. I want to see what he's got, and I want to see him play every day.
Yeah. Let's take a little bit of a break. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to Andreas and whether or not Rosario could be, a piece that's moved. We'll talk about that here coming up in just a few minutes.
The R&R podcast going to be rocking and rolling with you because football season is underway. College, Ohio State, the Power Fives, the MAC, the Browns. Michael Reyes, are you ready to rock and roll with some football?
Kenny, I've been ready. This is our time of year. This is what R&R is all about. We're going to be with you every week. Kenny just said it, Browns, NFL, Ohio State centric. So you got to stay with us all fall and winter long here on R&R.
That's right. The Reg Eye and Rhoda podcast coming to you here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe now and don't miss a show.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
All right, and we are back from our break. As we mentioned before we left, I mean, I was saying I would love to see Andres Gimenez play short every day. I love him at second base.
Yeah,
shortstop is his main position.
He's doing phenomenal, and I think you were going to start to see that, but I think the Naylor getting COVID thing threw a wrench in that, because we saw a couple more days where Ahmed Rosario was playing left field again, and Naylor was playing first base. Owen Miller was playing second. Andreas Gimenez was playing short. And I think that's kind of their ideal lineup with, some shifting here and there of the outfield. And then don't forget, Ahmed also missed some time.
Yeah.
He had I forget his injury, a sprained ankle or
I thought it was his hamstring.
So he had something going on for a couple of days. So he was injured there for a little bit. Now that he's starting to hit again, I'm going to go back to what I said about a month ago. And if he's hitting, I don't want to move his bat unless they're completely out of it. I don't want them to move him, but I agree with you. I do want to see Gimenez at shortstop and Owen at second, Naylor at first. I think that's their ideal infield. In fact, there was a trending tweet by I think the Bally equivalent for the New York Mets.
Okay.
Whoever that is, like the regional sports for the New York Mets. And it was an interview with Francisco Lindor after his struggles.
Oh, that guy.
And he said something along the lines of, well, the pitchers are driving expensive cars too, like basically saying like they're really good. And that's part of his struggles. And he felt like he was, doing all the prep work that he needed to do to be successful. Now, let me tell you, the replies were crushing him. And a lot of Mets replies were people saying they would have rather have just kept Jimenez.
Wow. And I know my former partner, Brent Spillin and I, we had talked about this when that trade went down. And I know we had you on and we talked about that as well. We didn't know who would win that trade when it first happened. And yeah, we were excited that we traded Lindor. Finally, the drama was over, but it was one of those things where then we would find out stories of him sleeping in the clubhouse during the World Series, or him not really trying hard during
the COVID
some
season.
games and, the postseason. And like, I was happy to see him go. And then to watch him struggle, I'm like, okay, great. Maybe we got the best end of this deal. I still stand by that statement. I think the Indians won that trade. Hands down.
They have a knack for letting a guy walk or trading a guy at the right time to maximize value and when they seem to have gotten the most production out of them. Mm-hmm. Outside of Trevor Bauer in his one Cy Young season, but you still got good return for Trevor, and then he's had all of his issues since then.
Yeah,
but there's not too many guys after they leave the organization in, we'll say, the last 10 years that are just thriving elsewhere.
Right. And then we knew, obviously playing in New York is tough. The fans, the media in New York, they want success. They want you to win every game, go 5 for 5 with 4 home runs. And they want you to be, the second coming of like Babe Ruth or, Hank Aaron or whatever. But I'm happy to see Rosario and Jimenez. And I know the other 2 pieces of the puzzle, we still haven't seen a whole lot in Isaiah Green. And then, Josh Wolfe, the pitcher. I know we haven't seen him either. He was pitching for the Rubber Ducks, I think, towards the end of last year. I don't know where he's at this year. I'll have to find that out. But I think Jimenez was the main piece of that trade.
Yeah.
I want to see him
talking
play
about
every
that
day
for a while.
I want him to play every day. I'm okay if they have to trade Rosario, whether we're in it or not. I think if you're able to move him as a valuable piece and you can get something in return, maybe a bullpen guy, maybe an outfielder, so that we can stop this game of charades of who's going to start in the outfield and, how many games do we give them before we pull them and throw somebody else in there. I'm happy that Oscar Mercado lifted weights in the offseason. He's hitting 210 with 4 home runs. Like, it's not enough for me. Like,
you're right. And I agree on that. I agree on that. This is contingent on Ahmed being a capable outfielder and continuing to hit. If that's not the case, then you're right. Move on from him. Send him somewhere where he can be a shortstop every day. And yes, upgrade those corner outfielder positions. That is something that they need to do, because you're right. Mercado's not cutting it. Naylor seems to be more trending towards playing first base than right field. Kwan is still young. He's going to have his ups and downs. I still think he's going to be an everyday guy. They're just kind of figuring him out a little bit, and then he's going to have to start to adjust here. So they'll be fine on that front. But it's interesting you mentioned kind of the New York thing, and I'm going to cross sports here. I don't know if you've heard some of the interview that Kyrie Irving did and talking about Cleveland and just the difference of being in Brooklyn and being in Boston and being in Cleveland. Now he trashed us on his way out, but now in hindsight, I think he's realizing how good he had it here. Yeah. And how good he had it here in the city, in the fans, and how well we treated him, and compared to how Boston has treated him and how New York or Brooklyn has treated him, the Brooklyn fans. And I wonder if Lindor's kind of feeling the same thing. Like, oh yeah, I wanted the big lights. I thought I was going to be this big shot, but not realizing that they don't care unless you're producing.
Yeah, it's kind of how New York is. And I mean, you can see it with any of the sports, basketball, football, baseball. I mean, the Yankees are doing really well this year. I hate saying that. You can edit that out, I guess. We don't need to congratulate New York for anything around here. But and I love like what Jose Ramirez said when he signed his extension. Yes, he could have went somewhere else and made more money, but he wanted to stay here. He knows how well he has it here, and he knows that he is the cornerstone of this franchise. And he is so loved by the fans and the media and Twitter Nation. Like, everybody loves Jose Ramirez. Lindor could have had that.
Yeah.
But Lindor thought he was bigger than the game, bigger than the team. And guess what? He's showing us what we already knew. He can't handle pressure situations.
Yeah, he wasn't a clutch hitter even here. A couple of years ago, I had done some comparison with runners in scoring position for Francisco Lindor, and I may have brought it up when I did a guest spot too, of how basically I took like the 7 top paid hitters and also threw in like Carlos Santana and Michael Brantley for comparison's sake. And every single one of those guys, career-wise, always had a better batting average with runners in scoring position than they did normally. Lindor did not. Lindor's went down.
I think the biggest hit that I can remember Lindor having is the game against the Yankees when he hit the grand slam. Mm-hmm. That was huge. And that's a memory that will forever be ingrained in Guardians Indians history. But when it came push to shove, I can't think of another highlight that stands out during his playing career here.
I have one because I actually filmed it. I just had a gut feeling. I was in the stands, and it was a walk-off home run. The ball ended up being like 2 sections away from me. But yeah, I mean, a couple of highlights doesn't make you a clutch hitter. A couple of scenarios of very memorable ones doesn't make you a clutch hitter. There's different situations there. So I think kind of what we're getting in a roundabout way is even if Lindor was going to somehow stay here and take less money, he may not be helping the team right now. Not any more than what Rosario and Jimenez are.
You think about it this way. Say that trade doesn't happen. Lindor's still here. You've got Bryan Rocchio. You've got Gabriel Arias. You've got 2 shortstops. You've got Tyler Freeman, who's technically a shortstop. I know Columbus plays him a lot at second. You've got those 3 guys up and coming. If Lindor was at short, where are you going to put the other 3 guys? Because eventually they're going to be here on a major league roster. If he's not cutting it, yeah, I'm glad they made the trade. I'm glad we got Jimenez and Rosario and Green and Wolfe. Do I think we could have got more? Maybe. That's just me being greedy. But
when you compare it to the Clevenger trade.
Yeah, we did really well, and we fleeced San Diego in that trade. We fleeced them.
Yeah, when that's your comparison of what they got for the Clevenger deal, you're going to compare every trade to that one.
Yeah, but not you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, and I think Owen Miller will be great. I think Arias will be great. There's guys that I'm very excited that we have, and we have a bright future. Yes, this team is a roller coaster. I've said it once. I'll say it one more time today, and then I'm sure I'm going to say it for 5 more times this season. They're a young team. We are the roller coaster guardians here, guys. There's going to be highs. There's going to be lows. Strap in and enjoy the ride, because we could go on a 10-game winning streak, and then all of a sudden everybody's going to be like, this may be the greatest team in the world, or we're going to win a World Series. You're going to see a team they're going to go
Twitter
up and
for you,
down
too.
and up and down and up and down. Like, strap in, keep your hands, your feet, all other items inside the ride, and just enjoy it. We have a team. They're not terrible. They're not Cincinnati, where they've only won 10 games. They're close because we couldn't get it. We did retain the Ohio Cup, but
yeah, like I said,
got to
that's a
win
tough
games.
one.
We got to win games.
We would be talking a different tune if they were able to beat Cincinnati handedly. Because if that was the case, going back, you would have won the series against Toronto. You would have won the series against Chicago, split. You would have at least, you didn't lose you didn't get swept by Minnesota. You won 1 of 3, and then you take 2 from Cincinnati. We'd be talking about this team a little bit differently.
Absolutely. Guess what?
Unfortunately not. But like you said, they're going to be up and down.
What's the day again? It's May 20th.
Yeah, they still have some figuring out to do.
130 games to go, folks. I'm not jumping ship. I'm not ready to throw up the white flag. This team's going to be competitive.
And they've had some tough go. We had several players who got COVID. Then we had the whole coaching staff who got COVID. They've had delays and double headers and all those things and crazy weather and all that stuff. So as things stabilize, I think the lineup will stabilize. I think the hitting will stabilize. And what we haven't seen really come around yet is the pitching. And if that can happen, then this team is going to be a lot better.
I don't think the pitching's been all that bad. I mean, McKenzie the other night pitched really well. Savali looks like he's trying to figure it out. I know they're saying he's relying more on his curveball so that he can get comfortable. Whatever keeps you from giving up 9 runs a game, great. Let's get that earned run average down to about the 3.5, 3.7 area. I'll be happy. Plesac looked good. Quantrill's looked good. Bieber, I'm kind of still out on Bieber a little bit. He had 2 really good starts, and they had one where he got rocked. So guys are going to have off nights. I mean, it's a long season. It's going to happen. Shane Bieber's not going to go out and throw 1-hit baseball or, 1-run baseball every single start. There's going to be a day where he doesn't have it. The control isn't there. Guys are just hitting. I mean, I'm not ready to say that Shane Bieber's done by any stretch of the imagination. He's still the ace of the staff. They'll come around.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what the rest of May brings. Next time we talk to you guys, it'll be in June. Mike, tell the fine folks where they can find us.
We are on Facebook, the Guardians of the Land MLB podcast. We are on Twitter at Guardians Land. You can find me at Mike Voorhees. Mr. Shaw, where can we find you?
At WXSHAW Weathershaw. That is my Twitter handle. And then also Facebook, Bryan Shaw. Mike, as always, it's been great to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Hopefully next time it's a little bit better. Well, one hope that we had for this conversation was that Franmil Reyes finally got out of his funk. He had. Now we need a few other guys to come out of their funks. If this whole lineup can get clicking and not have 4 guys in a slump and 4 guys doing well and 4 guys in a slump and 4 guys doing well, then I think that they've got some promise for the next couple of weeks, and hopefully that's what we start to see starting tonight.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Bryan. It'll be interesting to see where we're at next time we talk in June. As always, a pleasure. We'll see you next time, everybody.
All right. Take care.
Part of the Press Play Podcast Network.